Hello. Here you
Hello.
All right, we'll reconvene, and we've had a request, and we're going to then move item 4.1, information report, up a little bit. So we'll take that on, and then move back to our action items. Chancellor or Vice Chancellor?
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much, President Baca, Chancellor Harris, and members of the board for being flexible on this item. We know we have a lot of guests in the audience who need to make airplanes today. So at the last board meeting, at the request of Member Ramos, we had presented the 1-inch document that evaluated the performance on our economic and workforce development grants, one of the 3 funding streams that have been braided and you had approved on a consent agenda. At this board meeting, we'd like to take a moment to celebrate the high honors that have been received by one of the 10 sectors that is important to our system. And this was an honor conferred by the White House onto our Centers for International Trade Development, CITDs, for the work that they've done to promote U.S. exports. It's one of the truly valuable work that we continue to do as a system. And I wanted to share in the moment with President Baca and Chancellor Harris and the members of the board to recognize each of our institutions who host these Centers for International Trade Development. And just a quick logistic, that in the year 2012, California exported $150 billion in merchandise, as well as an estimated $50 billion in services. So this is a very important sector for our economy. And a month ago, Debbie Malamud, one of our board members, was able to attend and represent our agency along with Jeff Williamson, who heads up this sector in Washington, D.C. to receive the White House honors. And today we'd like to invite institution by institution to come up here to receive a letter that was signed by Chancellor Harris, and then to join in a picture moment with this frame that was sent to us by the Secretary of Commerce. So let's begin with the first institution, which is Los Rios Community College District. I'd like to invite Brooks Olson and Brian King.
Perfect.
There.
Do it on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to take 3 of them. Here we go. And last one. Perfect.
Thank you. Next, we'd like to invite up the San Mateo Community College District, Richard Soyombo, who heads up the CITD, Chancellor Galatolo, Regina Standback from Skyline College, and Vice President Sarah Perkins from Skyline College.
Yeah, I'll go that way.
Here we go. A little bit more. One, 2, 3. I'm going to do 3 of them.
Next, I'd like to invite up Merced Community College District with Jeanette Benson, who heads up the CITD, and Kevin Kersler, Vice President of Instruction. Wait, we have this for you though. Thank you. Next, we'd like to invite up State Center Community College District with Alicia Rios and Deborah Blue, Chancellor Deborah Blue. And Dr. George Rayleigh.
Okay, we're gonna do three on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna do 2 more. Last one.
Now I'd like to invite College of the Canyons District with Steve Tannenhill and Peter Ballas. Thank you.
Let's go. I'm gonna do 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. And last one. All right, thank you.
Next, I'd like to invite up El Camino College with Bronwyn Madden.
There we go. And last one. That is perfect.
Next up is Long Beach City, Community College District with Cesar Arellanes and President Eloy Oakley.
Okay, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna do 2 more. And last one.
Now we have Rancho Santiago Community College District with Jetsa Torres, as well as Dr. Raul Rodriguez.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna do 2 more. Last one.
Second to the last is, thank you. It's Southwestern Community College District with Victor Castillo and Dr. Melinda Nish.
Second one. And last one.
And very last, I'd like to invite up the Riverside Community College District with Jeff Williamson and Dr. Maguri. And I'd like to invite Jeff to close out our ceremony with a few comments after he takes his picture.
And do 3. There we go. Second one. And the final one.
Well, thank you very much. Vice Chancellor Tonkum-Livin, Chancellor Harris, members of the Board of Governors, and equally, if not more important, I hate to say, is the colleges that are represented here today. This is one of the biggest things facing us today is globalization. We need to be aware of it, we need to understand it, and we need to help others adapt to it. That's going to be our path to prosperity, and I'm very proud to be part of this network of folks that are committed to that goal. Thank you very much.
Again, congratulations to all of you. We will now take up action item 2.1, California Community Colleges 2014-15 5-year capital outlay plan. Chancellor, you have
Thank you. President Baca, members of the board, Fred Harris is going to present the next 3 items. First of all, the 14-15 capital outlay plan. Following that, a request on a Sutter County Education Center, and then immediately following that, the budget and accounting manual update. Fred is the guardian of that, and Fred, go right ahead. Appreciate it.
Yes, good afternoon, President Baca, Chancellor Harris, members. When I was at the beginning of the agenda, I prepared about a 1-hour presentation for each of these items. But with your help and consideration, maybe we can cut that way down. The first item is the 5-year plan for capital outlay for the system. This is an annual requirement, both in the government code sections and in the education code to produce a plan. By the way, it's a plan that's used as a template for a lot of other departments in the state. What you have before you is, for the 5 years of the plan, a need of $28.5 billion. And again, this is a needs-based document. And this is a roll-up of all of the individual district plans that come together and are normalized. And then over the 10 years, a $35 billion need. And this is in contrast with, roughly over the last decade, community colleges have been very, fortunate to receive state support in the tune of about $3.5 billion for 522 projects in the last decade. There's a lot of detail in the plan. I commend you to read at least the executive summary, if not the other detail, but it's something that highlights both the accomplishments and the way forward that we have a need for housing our students and providing the educational services that are most necessary. And I commend you for recommending its approval.
Vice President Wong.
I move approval of the plan.
Do we have a motion?
Second.
And a second by Member Asumi. Discussion? Vice President Wong.
I just have a question. Is there anything substantially different than in previous capital outlay plans?
No.
Because it looks very similar to past years.
It's the same format. It's just updating the numbers. And again, this is annually, there are enrollment projections annually that we raise into this over the next, 10 years, and it gets adjusted based on, the adjustments that have occurred both in the system and in the forward look that the best, minds have provided in terms of determining what our needs are.
Yeah. And in the hierarchy of priorities, do libraries come under instructional space or instructional support?
Libraries generally are under instructional space, yes.
Oh, okay. And then, so what would qualify as instructional support?
Instructional support space would be, student services types of, and facilities, things that support the instructional mission on the college.
Because that'll be a recurring theme of mine too, is how do we get more space for student support and things like that too. But
Again, the theme here in terms of a state priority is that this is, something relative to instruction, either instruction or instructional support. Those are the priorities of the state.
Any other questions, comments? How optimistic are you that we're going to be addressing some of this in the near future?
I'm perennially optimistic
Perennially optimistic.
that there will be, more specifically, that there would be a statewide bond in 2014. There are 3 bills in the legislature, will likely be 2-year bills, and we will see. The need is there, and that's what this document is meant to represent.
Right. Any questions? Okay. We need a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, and we'll move on to item number 2, approval of Yuba Community College District Sutter County Education Center.
Yes, item 2.2 is the approval by the board of the new center, Sutter County Center. I always am intrigued. There is, Marysville is in Yuba County, but Yuba City's in Sutter County. So, get your mind wrapped around that one. This is in the Sutter County Center, and this is serving the north part of that particular district. It was opened in fall of 2012 with just out the door 755 FTS at opening, and by June they're certifying over 1,000 FTS. It is a going concern, which demonstrates the needs of that particular area are being met nicely by these new facilities constructed and paid for by the district.
Okay, can I have a motion before we have discussion? Move to approve. Second, Member Hawkins. Discussion, Member Belansky.
Not discussion per se, but I just want
Comment.
to say that I think that it was really great on page 51 of our agenda of listing out all the kinds of programs that are being offered at the center, particularly the paraprofessional kinds of programs and the need for that in the community. And I also was struck by the fact that there's a goal to do a one-stop shop for student services. I hope that happens.
This is all a good reflection. This whole document, the needs assessment document, is reviewed by all divisions in our office, and those are inputs, both obviously data coming from the district, but interaction provided by the staff and the whole chancellor's office
well done.
to round this whole review of this needs assessment.
Thank you.
And I was just struck by the one point about that this was one of the counties where there's actually no higher education facilities within the boundaries of the county in the state. Are there others too? Probably up in Tulare, doesn't?
There are a variety of areas that believe they should have a campus. I'll leave it at that.
Can you give me some insight as to, let's go back 20 years in terms of the evolution of these centers, and relatively speaking, are we doing more of them as opposed to the past? What's the trend?
Well, the trend is there are probably, at any given moment, especially in the last few years, there's probably 20 to 25 centers in various stages of either thought or development. This is in a growing state and with a high need of increasing participation rates. This is a way in urban and even in suburban districts in order to get the education services out to the population to be served. And there are, a lot of really great examples in terms of how that planning occurs as things evolve for that particular community. But our process is such that it's a 4-step process where there's a letter of intent that's required, where the district is first thinking about that, which we initially review, and then there's a proposal. I think there's a more specific term than that, and then we will review, the preliminary proposal in that regard, and then if it's still looking like, the district is making a sufficient enough case, then we instruct the district to develop, the full analysis, which is a needs assessment, and it's the basis of that particular needs assessment that is reviewed that comes before you. But there, are not a declining amount of centers that are being considered at any given moment, and it's especially true now.
Yeah, I know, just wondering about the pace and, driving that, recognizing a needs assessment is an important element in terms of the creation of the center.
It's key in terms of the evaluation for our office so that we can make
Make
a
the
possible recommendation to you. And it's required in the regulations.
Okay, are there any comments, other comments, questions? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, action item number 2.2 is approved. We'll move on to action item 2.3, Budget and Accounting Manual Update. This item requests approval of changes and revisions of the California Community Colleges Budget and Accounting Manual. And before we get into discussion, presentation, can we have a motion, please?
I so move.
Okay, Member Zumi, second. Member Belansky. Okay,
This is another annual rite of passage. The Budget and Accounting Manual is something that is authorized in statute and more specifically in regulation. And we made our last major revision last year to the Budget and Accounting Manual, and the desire is to keep it a living kind of dynamic document rather than doing it once every 10 years. And so annually, we would come forward to you as legislative authorities, other changes occur in the fiscal side of the House to bring changes to you because, again, it's part of it deems its authority from regulation. And so there are 4 particular items that are being, changes, amendments to the Budget and Accounting Manual. One is dealing with Prop 30, the EPA account, the requirements and setting up a code for districts to account for that. Another is dealing with the liquidation of assets or the redevelopment agency funds, another topical issue that is facing districts. Third is a clarification for the definition of education administrator to basically align it with the language that's in the regulation. And fourth is to establish an object code for non-instructional data processing. All really burning issues that'll keep you up at night, and these are things that we commend you for approval this year so that we can come back next year with more good news.
Okay, any questions, discussion? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Action item 2.3 is
Thank you.
approved. We'll move on to action item 2.4, credit course repetition apportionment for course enrollment. This item requests approval of amendments to Title V, granting exemption from non-resident tuition for students possessing TNU visas. And
Before we get to that one, we're going to do
Course
the
enrollment. You wanna do something?
course repetition enrollment, item 2.4. The visa one is the next.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm sorry, I skipped over and misread the item here. Item 2.4 is credit course repetition apportionment for course enrollment. This item requests approval of the cleanup language to Title V, Sections 55040 and 58161 concerning credit course repetition and apportionment for course enrollment. Thank you.
Thank you. President Baca, members of the board, there are 3 of these items, and the first one will be carried by Barry Russell. Barry?
Thank you, President Baca and members of the board. This item is a second reading of an item that was introduced last board meeting. Basically, just some small cleanup language on the major revisions that we did to repeatability. And just as a side note, we have, just this last week, all of the staff have been working for months on the total guidelines for all of the course repetition language. That is now posted and will be available to the public for their review. So we pull all of these things together and now have a full document that provides guidance. Later this week, we'll be going to the Curriculum Institute, sponsored by the Academic Senate, to make a full presentation on the repetition language changes, trying to provide some guidance to the field. So with that, just to note, we did not receive any written comments on the first reading. We did have a comment at the Board of Governors meeting last time those comments, though, were based on the previous repeatability changes and not the ones that are in front of you now. So at this point, we would seek approval on the second reading.
Okay, move to approval, member
I did it first.
Member Belansky, and first and second by member Reed.
And just a question.
Discussion?
When does this, because of the different times these have come through, when does this go into effect?
Well, we will now, when this is approved, we will now send it over to the Department of Finance, where they will do a review. Our intelligence tells us that they will do a quick review because it is just a small change. Then the colleges have basically 180 days to implement the policy changes. But because these are linked to the other changes and are just basically cleanup, we would really anticipate that they would become effective almost immediately.
Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, Vice President Hall.
I saw the pulling out on the physical education, visual arts. What does it in essence do with respect to those courses and their repeatability?
Okay, and that's specifically when we're talking about variable unit, open entry, open exit courses. And what we discovered, the physical education had always been excluded from that language because it's kind of a backdoor route of being able to take a class multiple times, because if you have a variable unit and you can take the class half a unit at a time. If it's a 2-unit class, you could take it 4 times. That was not ever the intention for PE, and now we also included the visual arts and performing arts because those were also excluded from having repetition available. So we just took out that kind of backdoor option that colleges may have to provide some sort of repeatability for those courses.
So does this strengthen the regulations on repeatability? That's what you're saying?
It tightens up a loophole that we didn't see on first round.
Any other comment or discussion? There being none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Action item 2.4 is approved. And now we'll move on to action item 2.5, non-resident tuition exemption. This item requests approval and amendments to Title V, granting exemption from non-resident tuition for students possessing TNU visas. Counselor?
General Counsel Bruckman will provide background on this information.
President Baca, members of the board, thank you. This item was presented at the last meeting for first reading. There were no comments at that time. It is intended to bring the California Community College regulations in compliance with state law, providing that non-citizens who are victims of trafficking, domestic violence, and other serious crimes would not be required to pay non-resident fees.
Move approval.
Okay, we have a motion, Vice President Baum, second? Member Reed, any discussion on this item? There being none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, action item number 2.5 is approved. Move on to action item 2.6, Student Success and Support Program. This item requests approval of the Student Success and Support Program to propose changes to Title V, Section 5500.
So moved.
Second.
Member Hawkins, Member Belansky, and second by Member Hawkins. And,
And so, we do have a member of
okay.
public.
Thank you, President Baca, members of the board, Chancellor Harris. You had a first reading and a significant discussion at your last meeting about these regulations to implement the Student Success Act of 2012. And this will enable us to better target resources on support for our students, particularly those who are at risk, and will help us to carry out the promise of student success that you've spent so long focusing on. The regulations turn what was but the matriculation program into something that's easy to understand, the Student Success and Support Program. It will allow us to focus on orientation, assessment, and education planning services with counseling and advising provided to students, and follow up on those students to keep them on the road to success. It adds new concepts such as course of study, encouraging students to define their goals early and get on track to achieve them. And it puts the concept of students defining their career goals and working towards those into the regulations as well. You heard public comment from 3 individuals at your last meeting. We received 2 other comments during the public comment period. One was, they're summarized in the agenda, but very briefly, one was from some of the career technical education deans in the San Diego area, asking for greater emphasis on career technical education. And the other was from the Department of Social Services, expressing interest and concern in whether services will really be available to support foster youth in particular. And we have been talking with the Department of Social Services as well as other foster youth advocates to provide reassurance that our commitment to that special population is not at all diminished, and in fact, this is a way to further support those students. And we're talking with them about perhaps proactive ways to increase support for those students in the wake of these regulations. That represents the comment that we've received, and so the regulations are before you for your action.
Thank you very much. We have one, before we go to board discussion, maybe one public comment.
Rich Copenhagen from the Student Senate.
Hello, board members, board president, Mr. Chancellor. I'm actually up here to say thank you for the board and the Chancellor's office having a very inclusive process in developing these regulations. They've gone through a large number of committees. They've gone to our board. I'm sure that they've gone to many other organizations in the process, and yeah, thank you very much. And actually, I also wanted to say Michelle Christensen, who wouldn't come up here and speak with me, she was our student on the matriculation or one of the two on the matriculation advisory committee that did a lot of the work putting together these regulations. And so I also wanted to publicly thank her for her work. So thank you all very much. These are excellent. Approve them.
Okay, Member Belansky?
Wait till you see. Once we approve this today, when does this go into effect?
That's a good question. These provisions are going into effect over, they're kind of being phased in. I mean, the regulations need to go to the Department of Finance and through the state approval process, so I can't give you an exact effective date. But what I can tell you is that we are making plans to work with colleges to implement them absolutely as quickly as possible. There are certain provisions of SB 1456 that went into effect January 1st, irrespective of the regulations. So we are providing notification to colleges now that they are to focus their matriculation funds, their student success funds on orientation assessment and student education planning services. And we, of course, in recognition that colleges need time to implement, they can request a one-year stay, if necessary, in order to accomplish those changes. We are planning an implementation summit in September 23rd and 24th, where we will invite all colleges to send 3 representatives to focus on planning for student success at their campuses. This is a planning year for the colleges. We are providing the MIS data element changes as well as the funding formula changes to them so that they can reprogram systems and get ready to begin reporting in 2014-15 according to the provisions of these regulations. Their funding won't be affected by these regulations until 2015-16.
And the student support program plan, when will they be required to submit that?
2014-15.
And any chance that they might have to do a student equity report plan at the same time?
We are actually actively working on revisions to the student equity planning process. We have a work group that is working on that now, and I expect to have a report on that for you very soon.
And just one other question, because I wasn't necessarily sure how it would happen. On page 93, as a response to what was said the last time, in the proposed response, it says the Chancellor's Office will monitor the level of funding received and the ability of colleges to provide matching funds. So what could happen in the monitoring?
Well, the concern was expressed that although historically we have required a 3-to-1 district match for the categorical funds, that because of the significant cuts that took place over the last 4 years, that districts might have trouble restoring their 3-to-1 match if in fact the student success and support program allocation grows rapidly. So we will watch what's happening. Historically, we know that districts were overmatching matriculation, and statewide, the average was 6-to-1 for a district to categorical match. So it was simply a commitment that we made to the CBOs, mainly the business officers, that we would be mindful of how the program ramps up and not create an expectation for districts that they're not able to meet.
And when will a clean copy of this be available? You know, that doesn't have the mark-throughs and all that kind of thing.
We can get that to you immediately upon your approval
Thank
of the
you.
regulations.
First, thank you for this. I'm really excited to see this and support the revisions to it. And one of the things that I want to continue the dialogue for the coming period too is to see how we as a system can advocate. We've done a lot for access to instruction. And what's important to me also is to also prioritize access to advisement and counseling. And because that, I think, effective advisement and counseling will lead to greater access to instruction as well. And there are a lot of programs that target individual groups or cohorts of students based on race, ethnicity, ability, and things like that. And I want to make sure every student, what we're doing as much as we can to improve access to counseling and access to a live individual for counseling and advisement going forward. I know technology has always been mentioned as a possible way to expand access to advisement and counseling, but also to the extent that every student has a contact with an individual, I think will be helpful. And I want you and the Chancellor to continue to tell us how we can continue our advocacy for that, including more resources like the $50 million that were indicated and others, so that, because one of the things I hear at the local level is now people can get their classes, but if they need to see a counselor, it's a very difficult process to get that access that they need.
Right.
And I think we'd lose fewer students along the way as well, too.
Thank you very much for that comment, Vice President Baum. I mean, I think that our whole approach to developing these regulations has taken that into consideration. We recognize that the idea that was built into the matriculation program, that every student would have the opportunity to see a fully credentialed counselor as needed, we had to recognize that that's never occurred, and it's been getting more and more difficult to accomplish. So we have worked very hard to develop, and in the regulations, there's an expectation for the kind of support that students will receive, but we have left it up to districts to determine how that will be provided to students and who will provide the service, so that you know, some districts are making better use of paraprofessionals to take care of routine functions and answer easy questions, so that our fully trained counselors can focus on the students who truly need counseling. And in addition, I'm sure you're aware that within the $50 million for the Student Success and Support Program, up to $14 million is available for technology approaches. And so we're actively working with Vice Chancellor Perry and the Technology Advisory Committee to develop ways to make the way that we work with students more flexible and more efficient, so that we can target our human resources where they're needed most.
Any other comments or discussion? Okay. All in favor of action item 2.6, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, action item 2.6 is approved. Thank you. And we'll move on to action item 2.7. Chancellor.
Thank you, President Bacher, members of the board. It's really a genuine pleasure to bring before you a resolution for your consideration in honor of Dr. Peter McDougall. I won't read the entire resolution because, as you can imagine, a guy like Peter's got more whereases than most of us have ever seen. But I do want to highlight a few of them which I think are important. Whereas Dr. Peter R. McDougall dutifully and honorably served as a U.S. Army infantry officer and was a company commander of the 7th Infantry Division in South Korea. And whereas Dr. Peter McDougall worked with great acumen, first as the Dean of Student Services at Los Angeles Pierce College and then as the Director of Educational Services for the Los Angeles Community College District. And whereas Dr. McDougall was the dedicated Superintendent President of Santa Barbara City College for 21 years and a fervent supporter of the shepherd of development of the college's academic programs and facilities. And whereas Dr. McDougall was so revered and respected as an advocate of California's community colleges that he was appointed to the Board of Governors by Governor Schwarzenegger and then again by Governor Brown. And whereas he masterfully served as president of the Community College League of California, the Accrediting Commission of Community and Junior Colleges, chairman of the Californians for Community Colleges, and vice president of the board and members of the Association of California Community College Administrators, and numerous other task forces, the most significant of which was Dr. McDougall's service as the chair of the California Community Colleges Student Success Task Force that made 21 recommendations to fundamentally improve student success in the 112 college system. Those recommendations provided the framework for the most sweeping reform of California community colleges in decades, the Student Success Act of 2012. Now be it resolved that the Board of Governors of California Community Colleges, led by President Baca, thank Dr. Peter McDougall for his many years of excellent and dedicated service to the California community colleges and wish him well in his future endeavors. I so recommend that resolution.
Thank you, Chancellor. I have a motion before, or rather a recommendation before you, and need a motion to approve the resolution. Member Asumi, Member Reed, a second. Any comments? Anyone? Member
I
Ramos?
just have to is Peter not with us? He can't
No,
make it, unfortunately?
he,
That's too bad, but I went through both confirmation processes with Peter and Debbie Malamud in the Schwarzenegger administration and the most recent Brown appointment. And I have to say, by virtue of that experience, we bonded quickly. We often sat next to each other and traded barbs and notes during our meetings. He is obviously lost as a talent to this board, but not, in terms of his continuing commitment to our work. And I hope that there will be a time when we can have Peter actually physically come in and acknowledge in real time his tremendous contribution, particularly as the Chancellor has noted through his leadership on the Student Success Task Force. I miss him greatly, as I know we all do, and I look forward to having an opportunity to see him in our neck of the woods. I'm a close neighbor living down in San Luis Obispo, him being in Santa Barbara.
Well, Chancellor, you and I had the opportunity to work with him on the Student Success Task Force, where he was chair, and the task force would not have been as effective without his leadership. It was very crucial to that, as it was, just generally speaking, in terms of the board. And it's unfortunate I'd like to have him up here at some time. I'd like to have had him up here today, because I could have let him know that last night's game, Boston Red Sox lost 3-0 to the Angels. So, I'm good with that. I'd like to pick on him a little bit, but that's okay. There'll be other losses that he can face. Very, very good. All in favor of the motion, action item 2.7, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is passed unanimously. We will move on to the first reading, Transportation Services Fee Election. This item requests consideration of deletion of an obsolete regulation from Title V.
President Baca, members of the board, this is a very minor technical change. The statute has been changed so that we no longer need this regulation. All districts have the option to adopt the fee that was provided for in this regulation, so we're requesting deletion of the regulation. It's obsolete. And, no action is required at this time.
Thank you very much.
As we send Steve for the exits, I want to thank him. He is very ill and anyway came in today to do a yeoman's task. So Steve, thank you very much.
Drink plenty of water, get some rest. We'll move on to information item 4.2, state and federal legislative update.
Thank you, President Boggan, members of the board. I'm going to ask Vice Chancellor Vince Stewart to come up and give you a quick update on our legislative efforts at both the federal and state level. Vince?
Thank you. President Baca, members of the board, my pleasure to provide a state and federal legislative update today. I know that the federal update was distributed in your packet earlier, and this morning you received the state update as well as the legislative matrix, so that should be in front of you now. I'm not going to walk through those items. They're really just for your reference. I do, however, want to highlight a couple of things, and one just in reference back to President Baca's comments about the federal legislation dealing with veterans, as well as AB 13. On the federal side, we are certainly monitoring those issues quite closely and will continue to do so. And on AB 13, actually testified in committee last week, in support of that legislation. So just wanted to make those two brief comments. In terms of where we are in the process right now, I think it's important to note, I'm certainly pleased by it, is that we're entering the summer break. The Assembly adjourned for its summer recess July 3rd, and the Senate will adjourn this Friday, so that'll give us a little bit of a reprieve. It also cuts back on the number of bills, obviously, that we'll be following going forward. There are 3 bills, however, that I wanted to highlight today for your reference. The first bill is AB 955, as you might recall. This is the legislation that deals with summer and winter intercession. The bill is currently on the suspense file in the Senate Appropriations Committee, and we continue to oppose that legislation based on the policy concerns that we had expressed previously in the Senate Education Committee. So we will continue to work that bill as it moves forward through the process, but just wanted to give you an update on where it is now.
Vince, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Can you clarify just briefly what the concern is on that item?
Certainly.
Is there a way to paraphrase our position on that?
Yeah, there are really 3 main policy concerns. One is the bill would really represents a paradigm shift in terms of the funding of public higher education. You're really talking about shifting the burden from the state now to students in terms of funding the intercession in winter and summer. It also creates a 2-tiered funding system where you have students who potentially attend those intercessions paying a dramatically higher fee pegged to non-state, non-resident tuition rather. So it's significantly more than what they would be paying in terms of resident tuition. And then I also think you have the notion that you're creating a system of haves and have-nots. So those students who have the resources to pay that additional fee can obviously do so, and those who do not. You know, I should mention that coming out of the Senate Education Committee, the bill was made a pilot program, so it is significantly scaled back from what it was previously. But even at a pilot, it really doesn't change the fundamental policy issues that are represented by the bill.
I just want to comment, and I apologize for interrupting your presentation, but I know the Chancellor has expressed concerns about this as well, and I certainly respect that view, but I also wonder if this notion of experimentation and piloting on a limited basis is something that we should be so totally against. And I don't know what the nature of the discussions we're having with the legislators who are behind those ideas would be, but it just seems to me in the spirit of some of the local control issues that we always want to be attendant to and respectful of, and the interest on the part of some of the local districts to have the opportunity to experiment, maybe there is a larger dialogue that we can have about this if, in fact, the legislature decides that they do want to move forward so that we can make that a constructive experiment and one that can work within our system. I know this is a complicated issue, and I certainly respect the concern that the Chancellor's expressed about it, but in reflecting on it and talking to local leaders in the system, I've also gained some sense of flexibility in my own mind about the potential merits of that approach. So that may be my own position. I don't mean to impose it, obviously, on the board generally. I defer to the Chancellor in terms of the position we've taken on this legislatively. I just wonder if there could be a little bit more flexibility and relaxation in some of our dialogue around that, and we'll see how things play out along those lines.
Certainly, I mean, I think your point is very well taken, and I think, you know, ultimately if the legislature decides that this is the policy shift that they want to make and that's approved by the governor, then we certainly will implement that with vigor and ensure that it's implemented fully. Having said that, though, I think you know, the appropriate thing to do would really be to take a step back before entering into a pilot program and think about, okay, if we're going to talk about differential fees, a two-tiered system, let's have that in the context of a full discussion about what we want to establish by way of a student fee policy across the board. So I think it's perhaps a premature step, but, you know, I think these are the types of issues we're certainly discussing now as it moves through the legislature, and we'll see, I think, you know, what happens down the line.
Thanks, Vince, that's helpful.
You know, I suppose the way that I see this is that you know, looking at it in terms of the big picture, it would make sense to look at the mission and the overall scope of what it is that we're trying to do as a community college system. For me, this type of initiative often feels as if it's dealing with a mission shift without actually having discussed the mission. And so it does redirect us in a way that is not consistent with that. So for me personally, I would like to see a greater discussion in terms of how this fits into the greater mission, as opposed to saying, well, you know, we'll just kind of move the yardstick, move the stick a little bit at a time and
Right.
force this thing. But that's a perspective I have on this.
And again, your point is well taken, and I think we're trying to insert that in the policy discussion as well. Great. Well, thank you for that feedback. The other two bills I'll mention briefly. One is SB 440. This is Senator Padilla's bill that deals with the transfer degree, the associate degree for transfer, and implementation of SB 1440 from a couple of years ago. This bill is currently pending hearing in the Assembly Higher Education Committee. We're certainly appreciative of the author's efforts to talk with us about a compromise on that bill. We have submitted some amending language because I think for us, one of our primary concerns is not to do anything that would derail or hasten or slow, rather, the good work that's been done to date on implementing 1440. And we think that there is likely a way to work this legislation through and come up with a compromise that is mutually agreeable to all sides. The final bill I'll mention is AB 1287, and this deals with the Cal Grant program. I mention this bill because we'll be taking it to consultation committee next month for an update of its position. We're recommending a support position, and this would essentially take eligibility for Cal Grant program, the Cal Grant program back to pre-2010 levels when some changes in policy were made due to budget cuts. Essentially, students now have to reapply for eligibility on an annual basis. This bill would say that once you met eligibility requirements one time, that would continue on through your college career. So with that, I will wrap up and take any questions that you might have.
You know, you mentioned earlier the Veterans Bill, AB
Yes, AB 13.
13. Can you say a little bit more about what?
Sure. So that bill was heard in the Senate Education Committee last week. Testified in support of that bill. Senate Education or Senate Appropriations? I'm blanking. And that bill would allow veterans to receive in-state tuition, irrespective of whether or not they had already established California residency. My understanding is now veterans need to establish residency for a year, and then they would be eligible for that in-state tuition. I think this is, again, a policy discussion about recognizing the service to our country of veterans, and this is one way of providing some recognition and some easing of the rate of tuition that they would pay.
So essentially, those proposing the amendment on it believe that it would have fiscal impact that could not be sustained, or what is it?
There were amendments that were proposed in committee, and I think it was in recognition that to the extent you have more students who would qualify for in-state tuition, that does create a cost pressure on the state.
Vice President
A
Bond?
question about the Cal Grant bill. Was that something we had, the Board of Governors had put on our priority back last fall, when, or I mean in January?
Right. It is one of the priority bills that's on the
Right, we
matrix.
identified,
Yeah.
right.
Any other questions?
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the foundation report. Annual accomplishments, plans, budget.
Thank you, President Baugh, members of the board. I'm happy to introduce Keitha Mills, the CEO of the foundation, who will walk you through an update on some of her activities.
Thank you, President Baca, members of the board, Chancellor Harris. So what I'm going to talk to you guys today is about some of our past year accomplishments. Looking back over the past fiscal year, we just finished our fiscal year ended June 30th, and then looking forward, what we continue to be focused on. We'll also talk a little bit about our financial statements and results for fiscal year 2013, as well as our budget for fiscal year 2014, which was just recently adopted by our board at our last meeting. So I will be speaking from this particular PowerPoint that I think you guys all have in front of you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to Injiri for that technical support. Okay, let me see if I can reach. So we are currently operating under a 5-year strategic plan that we're in year 5 of the 5 years of our strategic plan. And the goals that we've been operating over the past over the past 5 fiscal years are summarized here in front of you. And that's to sustain and grow programs and services, diversify revenue streams, enhance collaboration and increase awareness, and to continue to stay focused on customer service and infrastructure support. And what I'd like to do over the next few slides is just hit some of the highlights in each of these areas for some of our accomplishments over the last year. I think overall, our focus is continuing to enhance the support of our system-wide initiatives and really expanding our position at the foundation at the statewide level as really a valuable system resource overall. A couple of examples of that where we host an annual purchasing conference every year that provides no-cost professional development to our procurement professionals throughout the system. Another example is our operation of the Fusion program, where annually we reassess about 20 million square feet of college building space, and that ensures that there's accurate facilities data so that the colleges have access to future funding opportunities, and that ties right into the conversation that we just had with Fred Harris about future bond opportunities and that sort of thing. We also work really hard to help increase opportunities directly for our students, and I think a couple of great examples of that is our continued progress around the implementation of the student success initiatives, including the Student Success Priorities Project. We've worked in very close collaboration with the Chancellor and his staff and moving forward some of the implementation efforts, and really proud of some of the successes we've had in that area. We've also just recently partnered as the fiscal sponsor for the CaliforniaColleges.edu website, which is basically the state's official website that provides information about all of higher education in California, and that basically provides outreach to not only to our students, but also is a fantastic resource for our counselors and our parents. We also actually run programs here that provide education and training for our students. And over the past year, we've served over 3,000 foster youth and probation youth. And the way that we run those programs is that we act as the statewide intermediary and basically provide both programmatic operating support and financial support to our colleges that then in turn serve these students. We're also really proud of the fact that we were able to secure, in partnership with the Chancellor's Office, over $550,000 in new funding for foster youth mental health services. Workforce development, I think, is an area that has a lot of activity, and we see as a continued opportunity for both the foundation and the system as a whole. And our efforts in workforce development, I think the thing that we've been most focused on in the last year is really aligning what the foundation is doing in lockstep with the efforts of Vice Chancellor Von Quinlivan and her Doing What Matters for Jobs in the Economy program. And that's been a really fantastic, I think, partnership between the foundation and the Chancellor's Office. We're really looking to broaden our partnerships, so not only make sure that we're in lockstep with the Chancellor's Office, but also becoming involved in the California Internship and Work Experience Association, developing partnerships with the Workforce Investment Board. We've been looking long and hard at our career pathway program that's operated for a number of years, that's really operated as more of a traditional student internship program, and looking at ways that we can expand and broaden that program into more really work-based learning experiences, making sure that the placements that these students are getting not only provide them with career development, but that also provide them with meaningful work-based learning experiences. We're enhancing our workforce development opportunities in the air quality sector. We have a very long-standing relationship with the Bureau of Automotive Repair, which provides tremendous opportunities in that sector. And we're also continuing to operate the centralized clinical placement system. And this system operates at the foundation both within California, and it actually also operates nationwide. So a great example of something that was built here in California that we've then been able to share nationwide. And this particular program helps both colleges and hospitals increase their student nursing placement, that helps train these nurses and also increase capacity of nursing professionals, not only in California, but throughout the nation. Our College Buys program continues to stay focused on creating meaningful cost savings for our colleges, our students, and our faculty and staff. And in fact, over the last year, we helped students, faculty, and staff save over $700,000 on just software purchases alone. And then we've helped our colleges save over $1 million on a variety of products, including software, technology, furniture, equipment, office supplies, and that sort of thing. And we believe that this is a really important program and a really important service to the colleges. So the foundation is committed to continuing to invest resources in raising the awareness to continue to improve utilization of the College Buys product and service offerings. And finally, in the area of sustain and grow programs and services, we're now in a position where the foundation is providing statewide, cost-effective investment management and scholarship distribution services. And this is a fairly new kind of program and service that's been developed by the foundation that was made possible by the generous grant from the Osher Foundation and the fundraising efforts that happened around that. So we're now in a position that we're distributing about $3.5 million in student scholarships that reaches all 112 colleges, so all students are able to participate throughout the state. And we're now overseeing and managing endowments that total over $80 million. And when we have that size of endowment that's being managed at the central level, it's really opening up the doors to opportunity both for really significant cost savings and also in available investment offerings. So really, we've now developed this infrastructure that we hope will, again, be another kind of service offering that can be made available throughout the state for colleges who may have smaller endowments that may or may not have, the expertise to take on those investment management services themselves. We now have the statewide infrastructure to provide that service as well. In the area of diversifying revenue streams, this area is really important, really for our long-term viability and to ensure that we can continue to provide the support to the system that has really become so important. As you guys all know, we receive no public funding that just comes to the foundation. So all of the funding that we receive comes in through grants and contracts and philanthropic support. So it's really important that we be diversified and that we are involved in a number of different programs and services so that we're not overly reliant on any one program or service to continue our viability. On the corporate partnership side, I know I've talked to you guys before about our relationships with the corporate sector. When we build these corporate relationships, we really try to build the holistic relationships that not only leverage philanthropic support, but that also try to bring in programmatic support and cost savings to the system. Over the past year, we raised over $16 million through a variety of different mechanisms, grants, contracts, and fee-for-service business that really work to support the system as a whole. And when we look over the next year, we really see our key opportunities. And this is a long list, but when I talk about the need to diversify our revenue in a $40 million organization, it really needs to be a long list to continue to provide provide that level of support. So we're looking at staying focused on student success initiatives, workforce development initiatives, including our student internships, our quality programs, student education and training programs, fiscal sponsor services, and pooled investment management services. So these are the areas that we see that have opportunity to continue to grow kind of above and beyond the normal service line that we provide. Enhance collaboration and increase awareness. We've spent a lot of time, especially over the last probably year to 2 years, increasing our collaboration, not only here with the Chancellor's office, but also with other members of the family throughout the state. So really making sure we have solid partnerships with organizations like the League, who we heard from earlier today. And it's really working to, and other organizations throughout the state, and it's really working to increase our opportunities, to increase communication, and to help kind of spread the word of the programs and services that the foundation offers. And I think as we look over the next year, I think we've spent a lot of time kind of looking within the family and getting involved with other organizations. That next progressive step there is to starting to become more and more engaged with the college CEOs and CBOs, again with the notion of trying to increase awareness of the programs and services that the foundation offers. Customer service and infrastructure support. If you don't have either of those, you really can't run any program effectively. So that continues to be kind of a pillar of our strategic goals as we move forward. And kind of at the top of that list is really continuing to build net reserves, again, for the long-term viability of the organization. So we're working every year to provide cost-effective services to the system while also continuing to build modest reserves for our long-term viability to mitigate against kind of unforeseen, programmatic things that may come and go over time. And then I believe, our infrastructure support, we've got to make sure we have good HR, accounting, finance, information technology, and that we're promoting a culture of excellence within our employees and employee base, continuing to build that teamwork and camaraderie, not only within the foundation, but also within the family here at the Chancellor's office. So that's kind of a snapshot of kind of where we've been and where we're going over the next year. I want to talk just a little bit about our 2013 financial numbers and what we're budgeting for 2014. So, and I think I've talked a little bit about this in previous meetings, where fiscal year 2013 was a tough year for us financially. We had about a 25% reduction in our overall year-over-year revenue, and that's related primarily to our student internship program. But despite that cut, that 25% cut in revenue, we're still, we ended the year with a positive bottom line and about very slim, about $365,000 in net reserve, but still in the black. And I think that's testament to the work we've done, again, to diversify revenue streams and stay lean from an administrative perspective. So we're projecting about $1.5 million in net reserves at fiscal year end. That sounds like a big number, but on an organization that brings in anywhere from $30 to $45 million of revenue, that's not a lot of reserves, so still pretty skinny, and we're still focused on building that. We continue to run on a lean administrative burden rate and have provided consistent direct support to the Chancellor's office despite some of the struggles. This next slide is just a pictorial of kind of what's happened over the last year. So I'm going to start with the bars to the far left. Those are our total revenues. So in fiscal year 2012, we brought in about almost $41 million of support to the system. We were budgeting almost about $44.5 million to support to the system this year. And because of the cuts, primarily the cuts to the student internship program, we realized just under $31 million of support to the system. So if you look at that, I mean, you could just see graphically that fluctuation. It was a huge hit to the organization, but we banded together and came through. And you can see on the far right-hand side, those graphs, we were budgeting about $539,000 of reserves. We didn't exactly hit that target, but still stayed in the black with about $365,000 of reserve. This next couple of graphs, again, it's just kind of a graphical of
how diversified we are, and again, how important that is. And you can see some of our larger programs. Our air quality programs represent about 20, almost a quarter of our total programs and services, so a really important program. And then you can see almost, a lot of the other ones are dispersed out at about kind of 10 to 15% a piece. So that diversification is really, really important, that if we lose one, that workforce development piece at 6%, that was our student internship program, that one used to be at 30%. So it's gone from 30% to 6%. The air quality has grown from a smaller percent to 24. So to being able to weather the storm in some buckets and bring in additional opportunities in other buckets is really, really important. The other thing that I would point out on the right-hand side, our expense mix, you can see our administrative expenses are pretty lean at 11%, and that continued kind of direct support to the chancellor's office staying consistent at the 1%. So really what that means is, on average, for every dollar that comes into the foundation, about 90 cents of that dollar goes back out to the colleges to support the colleges, and we try to run really lean and actually running our internal operations. So as we look forward to 2014, we're projecting pretty modest growth of just about 2%. So we're trying to be very conservative in what we're projecting. While we think there is a lot of opportunity out there, we're trying to be very conservative in how we budget and what we project. We're continuing on with the goal of trying to increase reserves by about $500,000 a year. There's kind of a 3 to 5 year goal out there to try to get us to about 1% of our total revenue stream. So at $500,000 a year, we would get there by 2020, if not before then. So we continue to budget with that goal in mind. So that this puts us, if we are able to realize another $500,000 of reserves this year, that puts us at $2 million at the end of 2014. With consistent administrative burden rates and consistent direct support to the chancellor's office. So again, just the quick graphical, you can see, 2 years ago we were at almost $41 million, $30 million this year, just over $31 million as we look forward. Another graphical, not much has changed here if you compare this to the graphical from last year. And again, I would just point out the pie chart to the right with the administrative costs and the chancellor's office remaining very consistent.
Keitha?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Can you say a word about this really wonderful news about the reserve fund? I think that is a marvelous, especially under these circumstances. I mean, it's a marvelous strategy, and it's great that it's so far so good. So how are you actually doing that? I mean, it's really creative and important to have that kind of protection against unpredictable downturns in the market, what have you.
Yeah, I would say one important factor in that is that the program that resulted in the 25% cut to the top line was very efficiently run by our internal human resources staff. And so we were using infrastructure support also as program management. And I would say we do that often, that as much as we can multi-purpose folks and multitask folks and get our infrastructure people involved in the business and involved in running the business, it helps us run more efficiently. I think it helps with staff professional development, staff morale. People don't feel like they're dependent on any one program or revenue source. So I think that cross collaboration is really important. I think the business development efforts that we had underway kind of leading up to that unexpected loss of the program was really important as well. So while those business development efforts did not result in the same level of top-line revenue, the programs that were brought in, again, allowed us to take existing staff who were already running other programs and had that experience and kind of reassigning folks to other new business development opportunities. I think the third thing I would mention is just normal attrition. Every organization has normal attrition, and taking every opportunity when you have that normal attrition to look at what do I have? What do I need? And instead of just replacing every time we had normal attrition, it was really a very strategic process of identifying how do we move forward given kind of, the cadre of business opportunity that we currently have.
It's really smart.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done.
You attribute all 25% of that reduction to the loss of that internship?
Yes,
All of it?
the vast majority.
And the
of
dip
it.
in revenues, or rather reserves, is steady?
So we were budgeting to build reserves by about $500,000 this year, and unfortunately, we didn't meet that goal, but we were able to build reserves by $365,000. So we had, we did have a decline in reserve build because of the revenue shortfall, but we were able to mitigate much more of that decline in revenue build than would have been expected. So it wasn't a one-for-one.
Okay. Any other questions? Vice President Barr?
It's always intriguing to see the diversity of revenue streams that you have. It's, and you talked about business development. Do you have people on your staff that actually say, oh, let's kind of come up with a program that we can then take out to the market and see if there's a customer for it? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah, so business development for us is a little bit tricky because we're kind of always looking for that next opportunity. What is the need? What funders are available? What business partners can we partner with where there might be opportunities? So it's much less us sitting around a table and saying, gosh, what do we want to do next? It's much more of us having an ear to the ground, networking.
That's what I'm saying. Do people come to you with a need and then say, how can we make it happen?
Most of the time, people come to us with a need, and/or we're working with philanthropic partners on things that they want to fund, and with the chancellor's office on, kind of things that are happening in their areas, and kind of the culmination of things that kind of ideas that come to us. Then we try to take those ideas and form them into something that's fundable, marketable, and that'll bring benefit to the system. But it's very hard. I think it's very difficult for us at the statewide level. I think the last thing that we want to do is kind of develop all of these great things and then say, here, this is what you need.
Right. No, it's because it's interesting. As I see the foundation, where you really serve the system is providing system-wide solutions to issues that every district faces, whether it's software or whether it's investment management, purchasing, and things like that. And then there seems like some random things like air quality or foster youth or things like that are good programs, and they bring revenue to the foundation. But it's interesting to see how it evolves. And is there anything any really hot projects that would be of benefit to the entire system or revenue generating for the foundation of the system that if you had the right partners, you could get off the ground?
Yeah, I think I just want to comment on the air quality, because the air quality programs, it seems odd that we operate air quality programs, and I know it's very confusing, but those programs actually operate on the campuses. So we have 33 campuses that operate smog check referee centers that are in partnership with the faculty that have student internship opportunities there, and I think that's a fantastic place for us to be. Because it's an example of a state agency that needs to run a program that says, you know what, I really don't know how to run this program and have no business running the program, but the California community colleges do. And you have the California community colleges has the infrastructure to really more effectively run this program for us. Me as a state agency, I don't want to go contract with 112 different colleges, so I want to go through the foundation and contract with the colleges. So I think there are some things that I think just on the surface, it sounds like, gosh, why is the foundation doing that? But everything that we do has some direct connection to, most times it's not all of the colleges, but to a wide range of colleges throughout the state. But to answer your question about opportunities going forward, I really think this workforce development and work-based learning is really a hot topic right now, and I think could bring a lot of potential to the system. I think there are a number of funders that are very excited about funding work-based learning initiatives, and I think there's a lot of need at the corporate level as well, and positioning us in a way that we can help broker those relationships, I think will be really important. We've been in conversations with folks from the Link Learning Initiative, which I think they're going to be kind of a strong partner both to the foundation and to the system in some of these efforts. So I would say kind of the partnerships that I think could help us most over the coming year are really in that area, both with the business community and other organizations like this that may be embarking on work-based learning experiences.
Thank you, that's helpful.
Member Sumi?
I'd just like to mention that at the last Foundation Board of Directors meeting, we had a planning process, and one of the things that was used as a tool was a survey mechanism, and so which I think it's important for our Board of Governors to know that the survey was given to both Foundation Board members, Member Reed, myself, and others on the Foundation Board, but also to members of the staff as well. And I think it's interesting to see that there was like a uniformly high rating on both surveys, independent of each other, so that you really didn't have any real marks below kind of something that was very good. Everything else was essentially excellent. So I think that I think it's a testimony to how things are running now at the foundation, that you have both the board members and the staff basically agreeing that the foundation has hit a good stride and is heading in the right direction, and that we're very confident of where things are going right now.
Thank you.
Other questions or comment? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to information report item 4.5.
Thank you, President Baca and members of the board. I mentioned this item a little bit earlier and misspoke. I told you it would be back in November, and it will be back in September. It is the governor's office that we have to communicate with by November. So you will recall that this item first came up at your January retreat, and it is part of the Student Success Initiative that we have been so earnestly working on. One of the goals of the Student Success Task Force approved by this board was to set statewide goals for the improvement of student success. I think it's very informative to this board that when the governor crafted his budget earlier this spring, he set down goals for both the University of California and the California State University, and Patrick will cover those with you in a moment. And in light of the work that this board and the system has been doing in student success, the governor refrained from doing that with our system and instead said he would work with us over the next year in order to set those goals. And I think this board should be extremely pleased by that response, because what it says is that the governor has confidence in this board and the field to set goals for the state that he and his staff can work with us on and ultimately endorse. So this is a very important part of that process, and as I mentioned, after today's meeting, we will be going to consultation, council and stakeholders over the next couple of months, and it will be our intention to come back to you in September with a specific recommendation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the architect of this, Patrick, who will give you a little information. Patrick.
Okay. Good afternoon, Chair Baca and members of the board, Chancellor Harris. As Chancellor Harris says, that's a good preamble of the item and discussion of where we're at on this. The issue at hand is Governor Brown has issued a higher education plan featuring a goal-setting framework. It is in your BOG materials packet 4.4 attachment 1. It's the actual higher education plan. And as mentioned before, CSU and UC are immediately affected by this. The California Community College system gets a free pass for 1 year, and we get to negotiate with the governor in 13-14, and we would be affected in 14-15 by this, which means that we need to begin the process now of establishing a similar goal framework, and we get to learn from what CSU and UC, what's applied to them, and how we should move forward with this negotiation. So the governor's higher education plan has a number of stated problems in it. It states that costs are rising faster than inflation. There is increased student debt burden, and middle-class students are being hurt. On-time graduation rates are low. Access has been reduced over the past number of years. And simply adding more student aid to this issue masks the underlying problems of higher education. The stated goals that the governor has in this plan include improving system quality, relevance and performance, reinventing higher education for the 21st century within today's fiscal realities, and also controlling costs, stop using tuition increases to prop up what the governor refers to as an unsustainable business model. So there's the basis of the plan. The plan elements, basically over the next 4 years, this is a proposed exchange. In exchange for up to a 20% increase in general fund appropriations, which would also mean a 10% increase in total operating funds for UC and CSU. In exchange for that, what the governor wants to see is a freeze on tuition for 4 years and progress being made towards 4 specific goals laid out in the plan. The goals are, and the baseline for these goals is year 11-12. Goal number 1, a 10% improvement of on-time graduation rates for both freshmen and transfers at UC and CSU. Goal number 2 is a 10% increase in the annual volume of California Community College transfer students. And I think it's notable here that this is a metric that is a CSU and UC metric for them to achieve. Goal number 3 is a 10% increase in the annual volume of degrees completed for 3 subgroups: first-time students, transfers, and Pell recipients. And goal number 4, applied to CSU and UC, a 10% improvement in the ratio of undergraduate degree completions per 100 FTE equivalent students. So degrees over FTE, essentially. Should be noted here that this is 2 ratios and 2 annual volume metrics. Other things worth noting in the plan: a segment can partially meet its target, and if it partially meets a target at any one year, it would receive a partial proportional share of the augmentation. Segments can recoup lost funding by making subsequent cumulative targets. So if in 1 year they don't make the target and in the next year they make up what was lost in prior years, they can achieve all of the lost funding. And targets are backloaded to later years. So in the first year, to get to this 10% increase, it would go 1%, 3%, 6%, 10%. That's an acknowledgement that it takes time for some of these cohorts to work their way through. And of course, annual progress has to be reported on this every year. So in the governor's plan, the actual language dealing with the community college system stated community colleges will receive commensurate funding increases over the 4-year term of the funding plan. Corresponding performance measures will be developed later this year and introduced into the 14-15 budget proposal. So we're now in this 6-year time or 6-month time window between now and the governor's first foray of the December budget in which to do this negotiation. I think it's worth noting that it's actually fair and reasonable to say that the governor is proposing that whatever augmentation the system receives, that he is asking for an equal amount of progress. So 10% augmentation is a 10% expectation. But for the community college system, the Prop 98 guarantee adds a certain complexity to this negotiation, whereas CSU and UC have a direct negotiation with how much they get. Prop 98 actually has a guarantee, so we don't exactly know how much this is going to be. But it does behoove us now to begin the negotiation of what metrics we would use, knowing full well what CSU and UC are working off of. So the first question you might ask is, why don't we just use the scorecard? We've just developed this nice scorecard. But the answer to this is, well, one, the scorecard was introduced before this came out, and all of the metrics in the scorecard are rates. And they are all cohorts. Many of them take 6 years to fully develop, and the governor is dealing with 4-year time windows here. Also, I would say, as somebody who lived through the Partnership for Excellence years, that putting all of your eggs into one type of metric in one basket can be really good and probably not so great when things change. So a blend of both annual volume outputs and rates are probably an advisable thing, and the governor has put that in his CSU and UC proposal, and I would recommend we do the same. The draft goals we would also propose are parallel to what UC and CSU have been placed upon, but slightly more appropriate for our system, given our multiple missions, open access, and funding. We would also propose that they be advanced equal to general FTES growth and backloaded. So we've developed internally 4 metrics here that roughly parallel what CSU and UC have in their plan, and I will give them to you here. Metric number 1, annual volume of awards. This is the total annual volume of Chancellor's Office approved awards. These are awards of 12 units and higher. This is exactly the same metric that CSU and UC has with their annual volume of degrees, and we would propose this goal be reached at an increase at a rate equal to or greater than FTES growth. That one's pretty simple to digest. Second one is median units above award requirement. So UC and CSU have to begin addressing time to degree, and that's a little dicey for us because we have roughly 75–80% of our students as part-timers. We do want to address the issue of, time to degree, but also excess units, and this metric tends to get to that. So what we would look at is for every degree that is awarded in a particular year, what was the minimum number of units required for that degree, and how many units did the student actually earn in getting that degree. We would take out remedial units out of that equation. That should not be a part of it. So you're really looking at a reduction in quote-unquote excess units and trying to minimize that number. And the goal here would be any reduction over time would represent progress. This is not something that is necessarily commensurate with FTES growth. Metric number 3 is annual volume of degree applicable or transferable math and English completions. There's no straight UC or CSU parallel other than just transfer, but this is certainly a metric that is along the path to transfer. We would look at the annual volume of successfully completed math and English enrollments at either the degree applicable level or the transferable level. And we would propose to increase this at a rate greater than or equal to FTES growth. This is a high order system outcome that we are striving for. Metric number 4 is ratio of high order outcomes per 100 FTE. This is equivalent to CSU and UC's degrees per 100 FTE with a slight tweak. The 4 high order outcomes we have in our system listed in the scorecard are degrees, certificates, transfers to a 4-year institution, and transfer prepared, which is 60 CSU or UC transferable units with a GPA of 2.0. And we would propose the denominator of this to not be any 1 year's FTE, but a running average of total system credit FTES over a 6-year running period of time. Our FTES tends to be much more volatile year after year than CSU or UC, so this would tend to smooth this out. And we would strive to have any increase over time as progress or increase at a rate equal to or greater than FTES growth. So these are the 4 parallel metrics that we have drafted. They are still in draft form. This item is informational, and we will begin the process of vetting it internally to the system and engaging the governor's office in this negotiation over the next few months and bringing it back to you in September.
Okay, any questions, discussion? Vice President Bob?
A lot depend of what. First off, it was great. I really appreciated seeing the governor's prescription, and it was welcome for the UCs and CSUs, and then seeing our system and how we're going to try to work with the office to do that. Focusing on our FTES, though, too, there are a lot of external factors that have to do with both the economy and population and demographics, because is the college-age population even shrinking a little bit, college-going age, and therefore, would that impact our system able to kind of gauge funding growth in the FTES numbers as well, too?
I think that's a fair question. Certainly, the demographics of who's coming into the system are changing, and the economics of the state and who comes to our system is changing. I don't know if we would want to engage in a negotiation where we attempted to mitigate that or not. I think a lot would hinge upon our ability as a system to continue to offer degree and certificate and transfer type of curriculum for whoever comes to us. Also, some of the system initiatives that are going on that would tend to help us and also counteract some of that. So, for instance, 1440 degrees upon transfer would also tend to boost our awards numbers and things like that. So,
No, it's a complicated thing, and I'm glad you're tackling it too, because I like the idea of the metric 2 you're suggesting too, the units beyond award requirement too, because I've noticed that's a challenging issue. If we could begin to move people through the system more effectively, and then document that we're having fewer and fewer people with 80, 90, 100 plus units at the community college level, that's going to be better for everybody, including the state.
yeah, and I think in the negotiation we can make a case and say, if that number is reduced, almost by definition, time to degree has to be reduced.
Right. And that would go into what we call like the transfer prepared students as well, too, that then we're counting the growth in the number of transfer prepared students, but also reducing the number of units excess units they take.
Correct.
Thanks.
So time to degree is one area, and then the other one is degree attainment. And it seems at this point in time that CSU and UC are working on goals that are fairly well defined, at least to this point. Is there an expectation that we match that? What exactly is the thinking in terms of the governor's office with regard to these metrics and how we quantify?
Well, we have yet to have a conversation with the governor's office on this.
Okay.
What we're doing is taking what was applied to CSU and UC and drafting this as a starting point for that conversation. We don't know exactly what they're going to come back with, but we think something similar is probably a strong starting point.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important that we be responsive to the direction of the governor's office. They really have provided us some deference here, and so what I'm pleased with the work that Patrick's done is that we can go to the governor's staff and say, okay, we see what you wanted out of these institutions. Here's how we think we can respond with a very different set of colleges to that particular item. And I think there'll be some negotiation at hand here, not only with the governor's office, but within the system. We're going to have a robust conversation about this. But when the governor's office says they want to talk about it over the next year, what that really means is that we have to have this pretty well with a bow on it by mid-October if we're going to feed into the January budget development, which normally gets done in November across the street. So that's why we started this pretty quickly, and why we'll be talking with the governor's office about it in the very near future.
Yeah, I would say one of the things we don't quite know yet is what would be the terms of the augmentation. CSU and UC have a direct augmentation. We have a Prop 98 guarantee, so we'll have to see how that one plays.
Well, much of what we do along these lines is with the interest of getting the community colleges to improve on their base, whatever it might be, and avoid getting into this competitive approach that begins to drive things in a different way. So the funding mechanisms on it probably will be something that will be scrutinized closely by a lot of people, so. But yeah, we position to respond, and
This is us trying to outflank on outcomes-based funding. I mean, these are things that are important. We've all agreed we're going to work on. Let's see if we can get the governor's office to understand this is the way we improve the system, as opposed to just changing the funding formula, which we don't think helps anybody.
any other comments? Thank you for your continuing good work.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you.
If you want to take a break, you can, but you don't have to. If you want to take a break, you can, but you don't have to.
Would you like to take just a little short break, and then we'll come back and finish up the couple of items that we have remaining? So let's take about a 10-minute break, and we'll come back.